To the Circle Maker and your daily devotion. This particular day is chapter 2, and it is titled Circle Makers. It's in this chapter that we pretty much see two major points. The first major point could be summed up with these words: the need for us to desire God's desires and not let love of our own lust lead us in our prayers. One of the critical reasons why oftentimes our prayers are not answered is because we are not really praying according to God's will. We're actually praying according to our own desires. Whenever you and I pray according to our own desires, as opposed to according to God's will, then oftentimes our prayers are not answered because we're trying to get God to do what we want him to do, as opposed to us finding out what he wants done and then praying that what he wants done is actually what happens. And so, Mark Batterson reminds us in this particular chapter that we have to be very careful about not letting what our desires are lead us in our prayers, but ultimately knowing God's will be that which drives and leads us in our prayers. Secondly, he comes to another particular story or a point as he tells a story about his own life. It is in this particular second story or story that he gives in this second chapter where he highlights the first church that he started. Unfortunately, as eager as he was and as excited as he was about that church plant, it failed. It didn't work out. This would have discouraged many after trying to plant a church, and I can understand that, having planted a church, that had we failed the first time with Kingdom Life, I don't know that I would have tried to do it a second time. But Mark does something different as he launches out again for another opportunity to plant a church that he believes God has laid on his heart and his destiny to pastor. What's interesting is he will take a 4.7-mile prayer circle down Capitol Hill all the way down to Union Station in D.C., where he will walk being inspired by a Bible reading or devotion that he had that morning to actually, like the people who walked around the city of Jericho, to actually make a circle. It was during this time that he started his walk that he did not expect to take a 4.7-mile trek. In fact, I think he thought he would probably just be out for 5 or 10 minutes. However, 4.7 miles later, as he had just continued his walk, he had made this circle again on Capitol Hill, down at Union Station, back to his home. What's interesting is, as you know, as you've read the book, at least chapter 2 for the day, that the circle in which he made on that day, praying about that territory, God, over time, will give him. Here's a question of the thought for today. What are the territories in your life that you need to draw prayer circles around? More importantly, let me ask this question, because many of us have not understood or even been familiar with the concept of drawing a prayer circle and then praying. So a more important question is this: what will be your first prayer circle where something that you believe or know is in God's will for you in your life? Are you willing to step out there on faith, like the people of Jericho, like our writer, Mark Batterson, to draw a circle, to pray, to not only believe, but also trust as you wait for God to bring that thing to pass? What is it for you today that you need to draw a circle of prayer around? Well, look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Can't wait. Hope you're enjoying our time together. God bless.